The ugly truth is that Nintendo runs sales on their Switch games so rarely, so infrequently, that their fans regularly take to Reddit to meme on them. We've got Miyamoto telling people to buy games at full price, Pippin and Mario paying way too much for old games. Hell, there's even this one of Nintendo selling $80 cardboard, which I think is somebody poking fun at Nintendo Labo. But what if I told you that Nintendo's rare discounts are just one piece of a larger puzzle? What if I told you there's an entire iceberg of slimy business practices that they've been using for years to try and get their fans to buy their games for as much money as possible? That's why in today's video, we're pulling back the curtain on them so you can know if you're about to walk into one of their sneaky little traps. It's definitely not because I've overpaid for games. No way, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. My name is Clyde, and welcome to episode 3 of Nintendo is Not Your Friend. And I just want to say, as a small YouTuber, I appreciate you being here. Thank you. Alright, so first up in our iceberg of nastiness, and I'm just gonna go ahead and call this one manipulating the narrative. This is when Nintendo deliberately removes cheaper versions of their games from their eShop to encourage, i.e. force, users to buy the more expensive version. Case in point, when Nintendo went to list games like Pikmin 3 or Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze on the Switch, they actually went back to their old Wii U eShop and delisted those games where they could have been bought for 20 bucks. And that's because they wanted people to buy the deluxe version of these games for 60 bucks a pop.
Corporate needs you to find the differences between this
game
and this
game.
They're the same.
Game.
It's sad that it even needs to be said, but bait and switching your audience with prices, forcing them to buy the most expensive version, that's the definition of slimy. But doing it to the fans that stuck with you through the Wii U, that's really low.
And I've got to say, in all honesty, it's the biggest piece of dog shit.
And sadly, delisting games from older platforms is something Nintendo loves to do. In fact, I've got an episode coming up on them shutting down the Nintendo 3DS eShop, which I've got a lot of feelings on, so if you're interested to hear them, please subscribe. But moving down a level in our iceberg of filthiness, this is when things go from slimy to just straight up rude. And this is a gimmick that I'm dubbing the Illusion of Immediacy. The Illusion of Immediacy is when Nintendo creates artificial pressure on consumers to buy something right now, lest they miss out on it forever. Case in point, when Mario 3D All-Stars released in late 2020, Nintendo told gamers they only had 6 months to hand over their cash if they wanted to own the game digitally. This was a time-limited digital sale, as if they were going to run out of copies or something. And after March 31st, you would not be allowed to buy it digitally anymore. And I'm sure Nintendo's thinking like, if you missed the eShop sale, well then, oh no, you could just go into a store and buy it physically, right? But newsflash to Nintendo here, going into a store in late 2020 or early 2021 wasn't exactly easy. And I don't want to use the real word here because I've heard YouTube can get kind of ornery with creators if they talk about the thing that I'm alluding to. But let's just say the whole world had a really bad case of Pokerus right about now. Pokerus? Pokerus? I don't know. Yep. Pokerus was going around real bad, and it's safe to say the people who didn't yet have Pokerus were trying very hard to not catch Pokerus. You getting what I'm saying?
Our village has been hit by a deadly plague.
But the fact is that a lot of us were sitting at home scared. We didn't know what the future was going to hold. We didn't know if the world was ever going to return to normal. And that was the time that Nintendo decided to implement digital timed releases?
Why?
Think of all the amazing things that Nintendo could have done in that moment. They could have just given everybody a copy of Mario 64 and said, hey, stay home with your families. The world is a really scary place right now. Just stay home, stay safe, make some amazing memories. That would have been incredible. That would have just been kind to their fans. But instead, they decided to do pretty much the exact opposite. At a time when a lot of people weren't able to work, let alone go outside, Nintendo decided that was a great opportunity to lay on the FOMO real nice and thick and just squeeze their fans for every single dollar. Man, I hope people can recognize just how fucking scummy this is. Shame on you, Nintendo.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
And with that, we are approaching the bottom of the iceberg. We've made it to the foulest of the foul, the scummiest of the scummy. Gaming sins to their fans that are so egregious they're approaching Ivan Ooze levels of toxicity.
What is that odious stench? Smells like
Re-releases. And don't get me wrong, re-releases can be a good thing. Giving gamers a chance to experience older titles that they would have never come across is a good thing. But, and this is a big but, charging $60, premium pricing for pretty much the same game with only a moderate facelift, that's just not a good value to your consumers. Consider a re-release like Advance Wars. Nintendo is still charging $60 for the re-release of this Game Boy Advance game, a game that didn't even cost that much when it originally came out, mind you. And the best they could do was deface these gorgeous pixel retro graphics with something that now looks like a crappy phone game. Think about a re-release like Skyward Sword. They hardly touched the graphics in this game at all. Yeah, they touched up some of the polygons and they made them look a little sharper, but does that actually justify a $60 price tag for a decade-plus old game? I don't know about that, man. And there are so many examples of this. Nintendo loves re-releasing their old titles at high price points. From Paper Mario, Donkey Kong, Mario Kart, Luigi's Mansion, the list goes on and on and on. It feels like more of these things come out every single week for $60 a pop. And please hear me right now. This is important. I'm not saying you're an idiot or a bad person if you or your kids like these games and like these remasters. I'm happy for you, genuinely. I'm just saying that if all Nintendo is doing is fiddling with the controls or barely touching up the polygons a little bit, fans shouldn't be paying full price for those games. This is a company, one of many, that is using nostalgia bait to get us to pay premium prices for games. And I'm sick of it.
I'm tired of this
Nintendo. That's too damn bad! So there you have it. 3 little ugly truths about Nintendo's business practices when it comes to pricing their games. Limiting purchasing options, driving up FOMO, and of course, leaning on re-releases at premium price points. And from where I'm sitting, until Nintendo decides to actually do better on this front, this will continue to remain just one more reason as to why Nintendo is not your friend. But if you'd like to be a friend of the channel, I would greatly appreciate it if you would leave a like or a comment or even subscribe. That would mean a lot to me. I'm a very small YouTuber. It would hit me in the feels, so thank you. Yeah, likewise, let me know in the comments if you've actually fallen victim to any of these underhanded techniques yourself. I know I certainly have. Yeah, in fact, I think I've probably fallen for all of them at one point or another, so you're probably in good company. And next week, I'm gonna be off for a little R&R, doing some thinking on some video ideas, but we will be back on that following Wednesday, the 24th, and we're gonna be talking about Nintendo's monetization practices specifically aimed at children. We're gonna be talking about loot boxes, gacha mechanics, in-app purchases, the whole shebang. So if you're keen to learn more about it, I encourage you to tune in. I'd love to see you there. And lastly, here's a link to the previous episode of Nintendo's Not Your Friend if you missed it. If you want to go back and watch about Nintendo's diabolical handling of the Joy-Con situation, go check it out, have some lols. Thank you very much for watching, y'all. Catch you next time.